and blessings to you beautiful souls. Welcome back to Arisha's Child. If this is your first time here, my name is Bumi, and here we talk about spirituality, numerology, ancestral wisdom, divine feminine embodiment, Ifa and Orisha-centered living, healing, and learning how to move through life with deeper alignment and discernment. So before we begin, go ahead and like this video, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a message. Now take a breath, settle in, and let's get into today's message. Because baby, we need to talk about June. Because June 2026, June is not quiet. June is asking us to see clearly. Now, let me say this from the beginning because I feel like people are going to misunderstand this month. June may look quieter on the surface. It may not feel as emotionally chaotic or externally explosive as some of the months that came before it. But do not confuse quiet energy with weak energy. I need y'all to hear me on that. Quiet does not mean inactive. Quiet does not mean nothing is happening. A lot of the times, most of the times, the deepest transformations happens in silence. Sometimes the loudest revelations comes as whispers. And June feels like a whisper in a locker room. The kind of whisper that keeps tapping you on your shoulder and saying, pay attention. Look again. Something here is not adding up. This is not a month to react quickly. This is not a month to move impulsively. This is not a month to believe everything at face value. This is the month to slow down long enough to see clearly. And baby, for some people, that clarity is going to be uncomfortable. Now, before we go any deeper, let's talk about the numerology of this month, because numerology always gives us the energetic blueprint of the month. And June 2026 is a global month 7. And if you know numerology, then you know 7 energy is very different. 7 is not loud. It's observant. 7 is reflective. It investigates. It asks questions. 7 slows things down, and it also wants truth. But here's the thing about the 7 energy. 7 doesn't care about comfort. 7 cares about clarity. And sometimes clarity disrupts comfort. So this month may feel slower for some people. You may find yourself pulling back more, reflecting more, questioning things more, looking at people differently, looking at situations differently, even looking at yourself differently. Because month 7 asks, what is true? Not what is loud, not what is trending, not what feels emotionally satisfying, not what everybody else believes, but what is actually true. And in a world where there's so much noise, baby, discernment becomes spiritual protection. I need y'all to hear that. Discernment is spiritual protection. Because June is not only revealing hidden truths externally, it's also revealing hidden truths internally too. And that's where things start getting deep. When I sat with the energy of June, the phrase that kept coming to me over and over and over again was, June is not quiet, it's asking you to see clearly. And what I kept seeing spiritually was this feeling of cracks. Not necessarily destruction, not necessarily collapse, but cracks. Cracks in stories, cracks in systems, cracks in relationships, cracks in belief systems, cracks in identities people have outgrown but are still clinging on to. And sometimes cracks are not bad. Sometimes cracks are revelations. Because if something is unstable, wouldn't you rather know? If something no longer aligns, wouldn't you rather see it? If somebody's intentions are off, wouldn't you rather find out now? See, that's the thing about truth. Truth does not always arrive dramatically. Everybody thinks truth comes like a movie. Boom, explosion, scandal. Everything changes overnight, but baby, real awakening often comes quietly. It comes through a realization you can't unsee, a pattern you suddenly recognize, a conversation that suddenly sounds different, a relationship dynamic that no longer sits right in your spirit, an intuition that keeps whispering, something here is not adding up. And I feel very strongly that many people are going to experience that in June. Now let's talk about the astrology, because baby, the astrology, it is backing up the numerology here. Like when I tell y'all this month is coherent, this month is coherent. The transits are literally echoing the same message. And that's when I started paying attention. Whew. First, we have the new moon in Gemini on June 14th. Now, Gemini rules communication, information, narratives, right? Perceptions, conversations, learning, curiosity, and baby, in the month already focused on discernment, the new moon is asking, what information deserves your trust? Because Gemini can bring a lot of noise, too many opinions, too much information, too many narratives competing for your attention. And in this era we're living in, where everybody got a platform, everybody got a microphone, and everybody got an opinion, you have to ask, what is true? Not what triggers me or triggered me. Not what emotionally activates me. Not what made me scared, but what is actually true. This new moon feels like a moment to pause, question assumptions, revisit conversations, be curious, and allow yourself to admit, maybe I need more information before I react. Then on June 21st, we move into my season, baby, Cancer season. Shout outs to all the Cancers. We up next, boo. And this is where things begin to feel emotional. Cancer energy is about home, safety, belonging, protection, family, emotional security, and the stories we inherited. And honestly, this shift feels important because while Gemini asks, what information is true? Cancer asks, what actually feels safe? And baby, let me tell y'all something. People make very different choices when they feel emotionally unsafe. When people are afraid, fear starts talking louder than discernment. Scarcity starts sounding like wisdom. Reactions start sounding like intuition. And I feel like June is asking many of us to pause and really ask ourselves, am I making decisions from clarity or survival mode? Because there is a difference. There's a huge difference. Cancer season may bring emotional conversations, family themes, questions around belonging, questions around community, questions around emotional safety, and even bigger collective questions around, what do we trust? What makes us feel secure? What systems no longer feel stable? What relationships no longer feel emotionally safe? And this is where I need y'all to really pay attention. Because when people feel uncertain emotionally, they become easier to influence. And discernment matters this month. Whew. Now, baby, let's talk about the one that made me sit up. And that's the full moon in Capricorn happening on June 29th. Woo! Because Capricorn rules institutions, leadership, government, heresy, actually hierarchy. Authority, systems, responsibility, accountability. The structures we build our lives around. And remember, the cards that came, well, not remember because I didn't tell y'all this yet, but the one card that made me go, ooh, that came out for June, one of them was the authority figures, okay? Which is a past life card. And baby, when I tell y'all I had to sit up with that, I had to sit with that because life is rhythms and we are in a very similar rhythm from before. Because when I saw this card and then looked at the full moon in Capricorn, I said, oh, June is talking. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't automatically mean collapse. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is June may reveal cracks in systems that once actually felt untouchable. That can happen politically, okay? It can happen financially, spiritually, rationally, professionally, personally. And for some, this may feel deeply uncomfortable because clarity often comes before certainty. Sometimes we see what is unstable before we know what comes next, and that can feel scary. But hear me when I say this. Clarity is not punishment. Sometimes clarity is liberation. Sometimes clarity is spirit saying, baby, now you see it, what you gonna do about it? Right? And then because spirit was not done with us yet, on the same day, Mercury goes retrograde in what? My sign of Cancer. Let me take a little deep breath right there. Now, y'all know Mercury retrograde gets blamed for everything, okay? Every text message, every ex coming back, every misunderstanding, every technology issue. But spiritually, retrogrades, they're not punishments. Retrogrades are actually invitations. Mercury retrograde says, revisit, reflect, reconsider, and remember, the 4 R's. And because this Mercury retrograde is happening in Cancer, boo, this is about emotional memory. It's about family systems, inherited wounds, homeland energy, old emotional narratives, and things we were taught, things we absorbed, things we never questioned. So this retrograde may ask, what emotional truths have I been avoiding? What inherited beliefs am I still carrying? What family wounds still influence how I move? And what old stories am I ready to release? And honestly, I think this retrograde is going to hit a lot of people emotionally, not in a bad way, but in a revealing way. Like, oh, wow. This thing has actually been influencing me for years. Whew. And then finally, at the end of the month, Jupiter enters Leo on June 30th. And baby, this one, this one is interesting because Leo expands visibility, leadership, performance, creativity, confidence, influence, charisma. And listen, authentic leadership may rise during this transit, but performative leadership, that gets louder too. So now we got to ask, who is embodying truth and who is performing certainty? Who is actually grounded? And who just sounds convincing? Who is leading with integrity and who is leading from ego? Because Leo's energy amplifies whatever is already there. And boo, June is again the month of discernment. So don't just listen to confidence, listen to consistency, listen to integrity, listen to alignment. Now let's go deeper into the collective energy because this is where things got really interesting for me. When I sat with June spiritually, what I kept hearing over and over and over again was pay attention. That phrase just would not leave me. Pay attention. Not in a panic kind of way, not spiral, not doom scroll yourself into that word didn't want to come out. Anxiety. Just pay attention. Because June feels like the kind of month where things begin revealing themselves quietly, truths, motives, intentions, patterns, the things that people hope would stay hidden, the things we ourselves have avoided looking at. And baby, sometimes revelation is not destruction. Sometimes revelation is mercy. Because if something is unstable, again, wouldn't you rather know? If someone's intentions are off, wouldn't you rather see it? If situations no longer aligned, wouldn't you rather stop forcing it? I feel strongly that June may bring a lot of information, a lot of narratives, a lot of emotionally charged conversations. And this is where discernment becomes spiritual protection. I need y'all to hear me on this. Discernment is spiritual protection, not fear, not paranoia, discernment. Because overwhelm makes people easier to manipulate. And when people are emotionally overwhelmed, they stop observing, they start reacting, they stop discerning, and they start absorbing. And June is testing discernment. Can you pause before reacting? Can you investigate before assuming? Can you sit with uncertainty long enough to actually see clearly? Because baby, everything loud ain't true. And every viral moment is not wise. Everything emotional is not intuitive. Now, let's talk about the cards that I pulled. Because when I tell y'all this reading sat me all the way down, it sat me down, okay? And the reason it sat me down is because the cards were not fragmented. Sometimes when I do a collective readings, the cards feel a little different. Conversations are happening at once. June felt very coherent, layered, intentional. Like spirit was saying the same thing from different angles and directions. And these three cards that I pulled for June were authority figures, the sorcerer, and Chasette. Okay? And the first card was from my past life cards. The sorcerer was from my mystical shaman cards, and Chasette was from my priestess oracle cards. Now let's talk about these cards. Let's talk about the first one, authority figures. The very first card that came out was authority figures, and immediately my spirit sat up. Because remember, we have a global month 7, which is about discernment and questioning what is hidden. We already have a Capricorn full moon, which is about leadership, institutions, accountability, and systems. And now the very first card spirit gives us is authority figures. Baby, that's not random. It's not. Now, this card talks about inherited systems, power, obedience, leadership, the way we have learned to respond to authority. And one of the things this card speaks about is how many of us, through life experiences, family systems, institutions, workplace, schools, religion, or even just collective systems, we have learned different relationships with power. Some people learn trust. Some people learn fear. Some people learn obedience, while some people learn resistance, and others learn survival. And what spirit kept asking me with this card was, what happens when trust in authority starts cracking? What happens when systems people relied on no longer feel stable? And what happens when leadership no longer feels trustworthy? What happens when institutions begins revealing limitations? And baby, I am not only talking collectively, I am talking personally too. Because authority figures can also show up in relationships, jobs, family dynamics, spiritual spaces, friendships, communities, anywhere power exists. This card asks us to examine something deeper, something deeply uncomfortable. Where have we surrendered our discernment? Where have we accepted things without deeper questioning? Where have we stayed silent because speaking felt unsafe? And where have we confused authority with wisdom? And perhaps an even harder question, where have we given away our power because we believed someone else knew better than we did? Child, June ain't playing with us, okay? Now, the second card, the sorcerer. Now, let me tell y'all where spirit really came in and said, sit down, okay? Because then came the sorcerer. Woo, child. Now, this card right here, this card is the shadow card. This card is fear, scarcity, manipulation, distortion. The unconscious things living beneath choices. The belief that separates us from truth. The things inside of us we don't always want to face. And I need y'all to hear me carefully because this card is so important. The medicine of the sorcerer is not blame. The medicine of the sorcerer is accountability. And baby, that hit me. Because the truth is, shadow work sounds beautiful until accountability enters the room. Everybody loves healing language. Everybody loves manifestation language. Everybody loves talking about becoming their highest self. But June asks something harder. Spirit asks, can you tell yourself the truth? Can you sit with the shadow beneath your choices? Can you acknowledge where fear chooses for you instead of discernment? Because fear can choose for us. Scarcity can choose for us. Pain can choose for us. Loneliness can choose for us. Resentment can choose for us. Woundedness can choose for us. And when fear becomes the decision maker, discernment leaves the room. And child, this is not just political. This is not just rational, professional, financial, spiritual, personal. Because sometimes we choose partners from wounds. Sometimes we stay in jobs from fear. Sometimes we betray ourselves because uncertainty feels terrifying. Sometimes we ignore red flags because comfort feels easier than truth. And spirit is asking in June, why did I choose what I chose? What was driving me? Was I moving from discernment or fear? And let's be clear. This is not shame. This is not judgment. This is awareness. Because once we become aware of the shadow stops unconsciously running our lives. And this right here, this is the part that sat me all the way down. because I realized something. June is asking us to confront the shadows beneath our choices. Whew, that's deep. Not just what happened, but why did I allow it? Why did I ignore it? Why did I stay? Why did I abandon myself? Why did fear feel safer than truth? That's a hard conversation to have, but it's also a healing conversation to have. Because accountability is not punishment. Sometimes accountability is liberation, most times, all the time. And sometimes accountability is spirit saying, now that you see clearly, you can choose differently. And then, after authority figures, after the sorcerer, spirit gave us chasettes. And baby, I ain't gonna lie, this felt like a sacred exhale. Because chasette is connected to divine wisdom, sacred memories, celestial intelligence, divine architecture. Remembering, she is the keeper of sacred knowing. And what I love about her showing up at those first two cards is June does not leave us in heaviness. June offers remembrance, because after confronting power, after confronting shadow, spirit says, now remember who you are. Remember what is true beneath fear. Remember what wisdom has been trying to whisper beneath the noise. Remember what your spirit already knows. Because, baby, some of y'all already know. You know what is aligned. You know what isn't. You know what relationships are draining you. You know what job no longer fits. You know what truths you've been postponing. And spirit is saying, stop abandoning what you already know. Chasette feels like remembrance, like coming back home to yourself, like realizing clarity was never absent. You just were overwhelmed. Now, if you've been following my work, then you already know some things I have been talking about for a while now. 2026 feels like a type of sorting year, a separating year, right? Schisms, like the great schisms. Not necessarily between good and bad, but between alignment and avoidance, discernment and denial, healing and performance, right? Trust and distraction. And when I tell you, June quietly becomes one of those months where the divide gets harder to ignore. I'm telling you. Because here's the truth. Everybody's not going to experience June the same, right? Same month, same collective energy, just completely different internal realities. Some people are going to slow down and reflect. Others are going to react emotionally to everything. Some people are going to question what no longer feels aligned. And others are going to double down on denial because uncertainty feels too uncomfortable to bear. So people are going to become more emotionally regulated. Others are going to become more emotionally reactive. And some people are going to sit with difficult truths, while others are going to spiritualize avoidance. And baby, this is where discernment matters, because not everybody who sounds confident is clear. And not everybody who sounds spiritual is grounded. Not everybody who sounds certain is wise. June is testing emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is not perfection. It's response. How do you respond when truth enters the room? How do you respond when clarity disrupts comfort? How do you respond when life asks you to stop lying to yourself? Because spiritual maturity is not aesthetics. It's not how pretty your altar is. It's not how many affirmations you can quote. It's not how spiritual you look online. Child, spiritual maturity looks like telling yourself the truth, regulating your emotions, choosing differently when you know better, facing what is uncomfortable without abandoning yourself. And June may ask all of that. Now, let me say something plainly, because Spirit was very clear with me about this. Many people do not need more information right now. That's just truth. They need regulation. Honey, this is a nervous system month. Too many headlines, too much scrolling, too much fear, too much overstimulation, too many people screaming certainty, too much emotional exhaustion. And what happens when the nervous systems get overwhelmed? Fear starts sounding like intuition, scarcity starts sounding like wisdom, reaction starts sounding like discernment, and baby, those are not the same thing. June asks us to slow down enough to regulate, to rest, to breathe, to pray, to step away from the noise long enough to hear ourselves think again. This does not mean ignoring reality. Let me say that again. This does not mean ignoring reality. This does not mean bypassing. This does not mean pretending everything is okay. No. This means, can I stay grounded while engaging reality? Can I stay emotionally regulated while still being informed? Can I hear truth without spiraling? Because wisdom rarely screams. Wisdom whispers, as my Baba loves to say. Sometimes wisdom sounds like, something about this no longer feels aligned. And sometimes wisdom sounds like, I need more information before I react. Sometimes wisdom sounds like, no, I cannot keep betraying myself this way. And sometimes wisdom sounds like silence. Do not underestimate silence this month. Silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is information, most times. Now, y'all know I have to give y'all something practical, right? Because what good is all of this insight if I don't give y'all a way to actually support yourselves spiritually? So, for June, I am recommending a weekly crystal ritual for your nervous system regulation, chakra alignment, and just emotional clarity. I love crystals, okay? I got a whole crystal family over here. I just charged them for the full or blue moon in Sagittarius, and baby, they ready to go, But seriously, because June is asking us to regulate, discern, reflect, and slow down, this ritual is going to help bring your body back into safety. So here's what you're gonna need. You're going to need 1 clear quartz for your crown chakra, 2 grounding stones. It could be black tourmaline, smoky quartz, black obsidian, something grounding and protective for the earth star chakra, right? And 1 pink crystal, a pink opal, pink tourmaline, a pink, crystal, whatever resonates, okay? And 2 rose quartz crystals, okay, to hold in your hand and create a healing cocoon. Now, here's the ritual. At least once a week during June, create stillness. Light a candle if that feels, like it's something you want to do. Put on some soft music, again, if this feels aligned. or sit in silence, your choice. Place your grounding crystals near your feet. Then begin placing your crystals on your body. You can go from the root chakra upward, but honestly for June, I'm just recommending going from your crown chakra down, because June feels like a month where clarity wants to descend through the body. So place your clear quartz at the crown, your pink crystals on your heart, and hold the rose quartz in your hands. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. And imagine the crystals beginning to glow. Imagine their colors radiating through your body, through your nervous system, through your thoughts, through every place fear, overwhelm, grief, confusion, or exhaustion may be lingering. See the energy surrounding you like a rainbow cocoon. Breathe in and exhale what no longer belongs. Fear, overwhelm, mental noise, confusion, scarcity, let it go. And stay there for at least 10 minutes, longer if Spirit says. And when you're done, thank your crystals individually. Unplug from the energy intentionally and remind yourself, I am grounded, I am clear, I am safe enough to trust myself. I am healed, I am whole, I am light. Now, if you journal, and baby, if you don't, June might be the month to start. Here are some questions I want y'all sitting with. What truth is being revealed to me right now? Where have I ignored what I already know? What patterns am I finally ready to see clearly? Where have fear or scarcity influenced my choices? What part of my life no longer survives honest observation? What truth have I been avoiding? What wisdom have I always known but kept postponing? Where is stillness necessary right now? Don't rush these questions. Sit with them, journal with them, pray with them. Because awareness changes everything. And once you see it, boy, you can't unsee. So let me leave y'all with this. June 2026 is not asking you to become someone overnight. It's asking you to become more honest, more observant, more discerning. This is not the month to rush. It is the month to witness, to notice, to pay attention to what keeps repeating, to question what no longer feels aligned, to stop abandoning what your spirit has been trying to tell you all along, because truth has timing. And June feels like one of its messengers. Not fear, not panic, not collapse, but clarity. The kind of clarity that changes how you move. And the kind of clarity that no longer allows you to betray yourself for comfort. So June is not quiet. It's asking you to see clearly. All right, family. That's the message for today. If this resonated with you, go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss a message. And if you are ready to go deeper into your own spiritual journey, whether it's through numerology, ancestral wisdom, or divine feminine embodiment, make sure you check the links in the description for resources, offerings, and way to stay connected. Until next time, stay grounded, stay discerning, stay aligned, and remember, your path has purpose, your spirit carries wisdom, and everything unfolding is asking you to become who you were always meant to be. Asheo.